What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Planet Coaster 2 video. This is Worldwide Benny here again, and today we're going to be working on the interior of the monorail station that we started in last week's video. Or not last week's, I suppose, just a couple days ago. But regardless, we've already gotten started here, as you're seeing, getting some benches and lanterns laid out. This first little bit is a little goofy. I don't like how there is a snap feature for the like sidewalk edition pieces like trash cans and benches, and there's no way to turn that snap off, so you just kind of have to work around it like that, scooting it out, placing it, and then using the advanced movement tool to bring it back in. You also can't use the advanced movement tool on those sidewalk additions unless they're in a group, which seems a bit silly to me. But regardless, we got it to work out, so now we're just getting some of these lights laid out. I had some ideas for the interior going into this video. I knew I wanted to decorate the walls a little bit, knew I wanted to get planters laid out with lots of seating, and then I also knew I wanted to do like a little snack shack of sorts. Sorry, that's kind of tricky to say. Right smack in the middle there in front of the bathrooms and information desk, kind of like you would see at, you know, any large scale train station, like a little kiosk that has restaurants in it. So we will do that using the small like table facilities. This is the first time I've actually used those. I've used plenty of the full scale customizable ones where it's like the, you know, gridded box that you have the restaurant or shop in and you can slot it into a wall. But for the first time, I'm actually using the just front desk bench portion of it, and it works out pretty well. I wasn't sure how they worked, how close you could have them together, but it's pretty intuitive. Right here, just getting more planters laid out with these benches. Really like the look of these metal benches for this train station. They just seem to work well. They're simple, they're industrial, they fit the vibe. And then those planters are clean as well. Went with a gray and black color for them, and then just gonna get some topiary bushes to fill them out. Nothing super fancy. Didn't want to do like, you know, flowers or anything like that. That felt like it would be a little tacky. So figured bushes would be our best bet here. Got to scale them right so that we don't have it, you know, sticking through the edges of the planter box on the sides. It's okay if they spill over a little bit, but too much and you see them clipping through, which just looks a little bit jank. Yeah, I get those spread out here. I also, in this video, end up decorating some of the exterior of this train station. I got the basics of it down, like the frame of the train in the last video done. But in this video, we go a little more in-depth, add some ventilation to the outside walls, give a little bit of depth to them by putting a few other pieces on the corners. And then I got rid of those two fountains that I had originally, and I do a new design for the fountains, which I think looks much better. Right now, though, getting this sign to differentiate the two directions you can go whenever you first walk in the station. Directly to the left is going to be the queue line, which I do rework and actually figure out a way to solve the problem I was having last video where it wouldn't let me make the queue line at certain angles when it was directly on top of the typical walkway. How it would like make it drop off and, you know, cut out random chunks of the pathway. You'll see later in the video, but I managed to solve that problem, and now we have a clean, large queue line that looks great, can accommodate a lot of people, and has standard pathway underneath the whole thing. So over here, using some of these arrows pointing off to the sides. I really like how that bold italic font looks. It's very simple, but very clean. And then next I wanted to add a little light to the top to grab the attention, go with the color red for it. Might change that. It kind of indicates that it's near an exit anyway, and I feel like the red kind of grabs attention right off the bat. I also find later in this video there are like small, I believe they're exit signs. I wish they had like your typical, you know, light up exit sign like you see in most buildings in America and Europe and things like that, but they don't. They just have this little flat one, but I thought it looks good, and I end up putting it on some of the entry and exit ways of the station later on in the video. For now, though, we're adding more neon. We love neon in these stations. We're gonna put it on the pillars right here. I noticed for some reason it kind of angles out if you look at those LEDs or fluorescent bulbs. I'm trying to fix it right here a little bit. It's flat at the bottom, and I did them flat against the wall, but whenever you move them with the advanced tool, I don't know if something happens, but they just get weirdly tilted. Regardless, you can barely notice it, and I finally end up just giving up on trying to get it perfect and just start copying and pasting them, because from the ground you can't tell. Generally, you just can't tell that they're tilted outward very, very slightly. So, yep, looks good right there. Enjoying how that looks. I think I go to nighttime here in a second. Yep, gives off a really, really cool blue look. Big fan of that. I knew I needed some overhead lighting, though. It still felt a little dark in the building overall in the evening, and I want it to be a little more ambient. So go ahead and grab these spotlights. Just put them to a nice warm color and place them across the pillars on both sides, and it just lights up the room a little bit. Generally gives it a better baseline level so that it's not just like pitch black with neon glow. At the end of the day, this is a utility station, being a monorail, so I don't want it to be like super, super moody. You know, it's not really a ride. It's a travel point between the sections of the park. Next, we're using the resort lights, these glow stick sort of things, to line the top of the fence. I figured this would look cool. Nothing else super particular about it there. Just thought it would look cool, and sure enough, it does. I end up lining some of the walls in a few minutes as well with them. Just gives it a bit of a futuristic feel. I think it's a good, simple look, and they're easy to work with. Let's see. Do we jump over and, yep, do the front of this wall here in a second. I'm really excited with what I end up doing to decorate these walls for the trainway, like the little arched sections where it comes in. I use the like resort posters and put them a little crooked, and then use some of those decals to dirty them up. It looks good. It looks old. It looks like they've been here for a while. Here we go. We're getting started on it right now, and it just works really, really well. I wish they had more options and not just the resort themed posters. It would be cool to see some other types of posters, or, you know, stickers. I wish there were more informational signs. There really are just a few for like swimming, and one for, you know, passengers boarding a ride, which is fine. I'll find ways to incorporate those in the park, but some more options there would be pretty neat if possible. But for now, we're just grabbing these decals and copy pasting them all around to dirty up the signs. Looks surprisingly good. I just go with the moss decal. It, to me, looks a lot better than the other wear and tear one. The other wear and tear one just stands out way too much, even if you make the colors the same as the wall for it. But those moss decals, when incorporated correctly with correct coloring, just really, really add some depth and make it look a little more realistic. So next up, we're going to come over here and decorate, I believe, the bathroom and information desk. Just doing some basic door stuff here. We still got the Planet Coaster 2 logo there, so gotta make it the same color so it doesn't show up as much. And then trying to get a little creative on the bathroom for how I can make it a more unique entrance. I didn't want to just use the, you know, flat wall, zero dimension, nothing to it. So I add a couple of the, they're not archways, but, you know, walkway wall pieces, and then grab some trim and use that trim to outline and cover the bathroom entrance. And it just makes it stand out a little more, makes it, you know, not look as bland. So getting as creative as I can here, and then get a little light over top the bathroom so that you can see the sign better, so that it stands out to the guest whenever they walk in. And yeah, looks solid, looks neat. Next up, jumping over the information desk, we're going to throw a couple of these ventilation units down with some white smoke, so that way they look like they're running, they look like steam's coming out. Looks cool. Yep, looks great there. Next, I didn't want this to be like a perfectly square entrance, so I just grabbed some, like, I tried the corner pieces, but they don't quite work. So I think I end up moving over to these round support structure pieces. They're a little shiny, which I don't love, and I might change them out later. But for this time, I was just in the flow of things, trying to get, as much done on this as I could, and I wasn't thinking super hard about it. So I went with the very shiny pillar pieces, tuck them into the corners just to make it look a little different than, flat plain walls with nothing going on. Get the colors to match the scaffolding on that, or the supports on that awning. And yeah, it looks decent. Nothing, knock your socks off, but it's decent enough. It separates it from the wall. And then I wanted to add a little bit of lighting to it. Boom, looks good. What do I jump into next here? Next, I just do a quick little look to see how it is. I learned the shortcut for changing cameras in a bit, which is super useful for anybody who doesn't know it. It's T. Highly recommend using it, especially when you're working in interior spaces. It can be a little tricky to use the standard camera to move around and see everything you need to, so you have to swap back and forth with that free look camera. But that is a big upgrade to quality of life in building, is learning to toggle back and forth between those when you need to. So adding these little domed aquatic windows at the top up here, just to add a little bit of depth. Adding the spotlights on some other portions of the station to fill it out. And then this is where I believe I'm starting to think through what I want to do in the center there. I knew I wanted to do some ventilations on the walls, and luckily they spaced very well. And then I have these other small vents that I end up putting on the ground in a couple places that are good. But at this point, it's already going in my head, like, what am I going to do with this big empty space right smack in the middle of the station? I was looking through all the statues and centerpieces, and just none that was standing out to me. But that was when I had the realization, I guess, at the time, that I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to do a little kiosk stand. So we get to that. I checked the TVs to see if you can put any like instructional things on them, but you weren't able to. It's just the shop logos. So back over to using more of the posters in the meantime, copying and pasting the moss decals. They look good. They cover them up a little bit, make it look old and worn. They make the posters look a little less tacky. The posters are kind of tacky, but from a distance, they look neat enough. Get the LED strips or glow sticks that go along the wall, matching on the other side. Looks good. There's a little bit of trim up top there, which helps it look good. For some reason, this one was sticking out, so I had to do a little adjusting. And let's see, do we jump into the building next? We sure do. So get it set up. Baseline, outline there. Figure out how many sides I want to put shops on. I originally wanted to try to do it 3 sides, but once you put the benches in, you can only actually do them on 2 sides. I also put that bench in backwards. I think I put them in backwards on both sides, so I have to go back and fix that afterwards. But it's a quick little fix that I do, you'll see. So this is where I realized I put it in backwards, give it a spin, and then once I get that placed, I tried to put a third down, but it gives you like a weird snapping sort of thing where it just doesn't quite fit in right. And I don't even think it allows you to actually, but yeah, you can't squeeze it in between them. So roll with just 2, no big deal. Still looks cool. Group it all up and then get it lined up, set in the center of the building, figure out which direction I want it to face. It makes the most sense to go sideways, I feel like. Using the wall over there to make sure it's parallel with everything around it. And then we jump into roofing it. Roofing it was pretty simple. I looked at a couple of options, but then I decided to just go with the tried and true corrugated metal awning pieces. Yeah, you can see I was looking at all these like Spanish tile market roof sort of things. But at the end of the day, these make the most sense. Obviously, they fit with the style. So then we grab a roof piece for it in just a second. and scooch everything up to match. Get the color set. Bada boom, bada bang. Cute little top hat of a roof. Looks good. And then we grab the Gulpy sign. I picked shops. Drink shops seem to make the most sense for right here. Nobody's picking up a meal before they go to the other park, but they may want to drink for the ride. And I picked the drink shops I think have the coolest signs. The Gulpy is probably my favorite sign in the game. Don't know why. Just looks cool. And then Slush Hour. Slush Hour also has a good looking sign. So finally using those little hanger signs. I think those look good. They, you know, fill out the space, busy it up a little bit, and then we're going to put the one ventilation unit on it. Deciding what kind of vent to use at the top of the little kiosk. Copy them over, even them up, and then move it to the other side here in a second. Let's see, what do I do here? Yeah, I think I just push them to the back. I realized that I don't want them sitting underneath the sign. That would be a little silly. So then we're going to put a bench on both sides. Pretty easy. Get some trash cans set up. Kiosk is already starting to look good. Move over to... Let's see, what else do I put on it? I think I might put a light on it somewhere, or a couple lights. Oh yeah, I do a little bit of trim. The trim looks surprisingly good. It just, you know, breaks up that super flat, harsh corner wall to floor look that you get whenever you just use the baseline walls. And then after I do that, I have to scooch out the deals a little bit. But yeah, that's looking good, looking cool. Pretty much how I pictured it whenever I got started on it. Just knew I needed to add some lights to it. And I end up using the same lights I use on the scaffolding pieces on the side. I try out some of these, and I do like them on the fronts of the shops. But on the side of the shop, you'll see what I mean here in a second. I use the, I think they're like the resort, something like modern wall light. And they look cool because they tilt down a little bit if you put them up on the awning itself, which is nice. Add some good ambient light in the room. And yeah, that's looking cool. It's a great look right when you walk in. It breaks up the open space on the right side. And just walking around, it feels good. It feels pretty realistic. It's not the biggest monorail station, but I don't feel like it needs to be massive. It's got plenty of seating though. Here is where I finally fix what was the nightmare of my last video. So it was surprisingly a pretty easy fix, and I'm amazed I didn't think of it beforehand. I just go in and delete everything, and then here in a second, I'm going to actually build out my queue exactly how I want it. So get a nice tight queue that gives a lot of real estate for people to walk through so we can have a larger line, get it lined up with the fences. Perfect. And then I just go in, I try to do like an adjustment there, and it gets me halfway but leaves me with a weird diagonal. And I try some other jank stuff that kind of works. I'm trying to move it around to get it to go squared with the station pathway, but it just doesn't quite work. So I think after this, I end up just grabbing the stamp tool, and you can get it to, you know, line up and fill in those gaps pretty easy. And boom, we did it. We got the regular walkway floor with a queue on top of it. Hopefully people walk across it. I haven't actually opened up the monorail yet because the other portions of the park aren't open yet. So those stations aren't even finished. So I can't open it yet. But crossing my fingers when I do that it works, because that would suck to have to go back and fix it again. So we get those LEDs lined up a little more on some other portions of the park. I look at doing an overhang on the walkway, but end up deciding it looks a little weird. Looks a little jank having those LED lights go all the way across there. So yeah, next up, we're going to do a little bit of exterior work on the station. I didn't want these super flat-sided walls with no dimension, and also the little bits of clipping from the curved portions of the roof coming through. So I decided to mask them with like a big AC duct that we can pretend is like, you know, tied to those aquatic dome lights or whatever you want to call them inside of the building. Move it up the side, go with like a light gray. I think I end up darkening that gray in a little bit because it felt a little too stand out as the white. But pretty simple setup. get it going there. You can see that clipping. I didn't like how it looked, so I scooted it in, and it's a little less noticeable now. And then we just copy paste our way across. Here's where I decided to change the color to make it match a little more, and then add another AC vent, and it's looking good. Next up, nothing too fancy here, but I just wanted to make this section that jets out a little thicker so that it didn't look, you know, so fake and building blocky. And then I end up grabbing one of these curved pieces that adds a little dimension as well. It helps a lot, honestly. It's a small thing, but it does quite a bit. Then I wanted to add some pillars to the entrance and exits for the train so that you didn't just, you know, see the corner of the wall. It just makes it look a little better. Do it on the other side here in a second. Gotta line it up. Easy peasy. Looks nice. Add the pathway, extend the fence to go to the tram line, and then in a second I cover up what is open on the tramway going in for the monorail. So just block off the scaffolding for the station. You'll see what I mean in a few seconds. It's pretty simple. Yeah, it's looking pretty solid though. Got a copy to go to the other side. Realize once I get over there that I have to flip them all because of the little supports that hold them onto the walls. And I have to do all these one by one because if you select them all at once, it changes the access point of rotation. So not the most convenient moment, but for that one, luckily, it's a little more convenient. Looks like I forgot to do one. Oh no, that's no big deal. I can always fix that later, but glad I'm catching it in the video now. So here's where I decide to fill this portion out. Look at doing some fencing to see if that looks cool, but if doesn't quite fit, doesn't quite do what I want. So just go over and grab the half size or quarter size aquatic corrugated wall, slide those in and fills it out just fine. Then I want a little light up here, basically telling the train conductor or monorail conductor, hey, slow down. So I get the little stop sign hand things as well that I set up. Looks good, looks simple. I'll probably do something like that on all of the stations, make the light red as to tell people to slow down. Then we're going to grab some windows. These are windows as if the back of the shop looked out. They need a little light in them. I think, you know, every shop deserves a little light in the window. So poke those across and use the fencing pillars to, or I guess pylons, whatever you want to call them, to evenly space them, change the color to break up the monotony a little bit. And then next, I do just a little bit of terraforming, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to want the outside of this to have like a bunch of trees and stuff so that it isn't just like a giant flat world beyond the monorail. I might also end up putting more skyscrapers throughout Cyber City in different areas of the park just to give it a bigger skyline, give it, you know, more of a dense sort of claustrophobic feel from down low, because right now it is pretty open aside from the downtown area. The downtown area is nice, but yeah, I want to add a little more to it. So next up, I found this cool fish sculpture sort of thing in the workshop, and I figured that could make for a very, very cool front piece fountain sort of thing for the monorail station. I had the idea to put it on a rotating platform so it looks like the fish are swimming statues inside the water. So you'll see me do that here over the next few minutes. The only main problem I had with it was as I was building from the sky and from the, you know, construction camera, it looks really good, but from the ground, people walking by it couldn't really see what it looked like. So I had the idea to sink it into the ground, which creates a really, really cool flush look. Right here, I was accidentally using the waterfall instead of the water jet for the fountain, so I had to go back and look for that. It had a different name. There it is, water jet large. Boom. Toss that in the middle. I end up doing some smaller ones on the sides later, but right there I was just kind of playing around with the different water effects. Get my rotating platform, get it set up, and then I'm going to go and grab the fish. Yeah, I screwed up right here and was having a hard time getting it attached just because I wasn't using the attach to scenery button. It was a little bit silly of me. But figure it out here in a second. Get it placed, scoot it up, and then get the speed set up correctly. Looks pretty cool, pretty fun. I like the idea. Slow reverse spin works quite well. And then I end up, let's see, when do I start sinking it down? That's probably going to be in a minute. I wanted to see at night. It's definitely easier to see at night than it is to see in day. And I actually add some lighting in the little fountain pool itself, which helps it be more visible at night as well. It's just a good look. You'll see it here in a bit. But for now, changing the color to all black. And this is where I decide I need to sink it into the ground so that guests can see it from the walkway. So push it down, flatten the foundation, grab it, line it up. Got to switch it back over to day so I can actually see what I'm doing, and then get it placed. And boom, looks cool. I actually really like how it looks. I was pretty happy with that idea. It makes it a lot easier to see those fish from the walkway. The water still reflects pretty harshly in the daytime, but that's no big deal. I'm not going to be too upset about it. Get that landscaping pushed away after I slide it over. And then I got to get the fountain put in the middle. And then I got to get my fishy set up, which is pretty easy. I was trying to do the fish in a different color, but it's like 280 some odd pieces. And I would have to go in and actually change most of them like individually, because if you select it all, it only allows you to change one color. So since they're underwater, end up just going with the same color. Didn't want to go to that much work. And I also tried rotating them a different direction, but they look a little funky whenever you rotate them the other direction, because that's just not the way they would swim. Fish can't really swim backwards. So, you know, we're going with the same rotation speed, or same speed and direction. So this is where I decide to add some lighting to the pool itself. We go with our trusty fluorescent bulbs with a nice neon color. I end up going with a purple of sorts. I felt like it looked good. Thought about doing like an orange to match the fish, but the purple just looks cooler. It gives a way cooler glow to the pool. So we're going to copy that across the whole thing. And here we go. Bada boom. Bada boom. And then we end up copying it over to the other side. And yeah, the pools really stand out after this. It's easier to see them from the ground, especially in the daytime when they're low like that. And at night helps you to see them having all this light. So realize I accidentally attached some of them to the wrong group. I attached them to that floor piece, so I had to go and break them all up to make sure they weren't part of it. Select them all, and then copy them over, save them as a group so it's easier if I end up doing it again at any point. Get it lined up so you can see them all, and bam! Station's looking really cool. Big fan of it. So next thing we jump into extending these fences a little more, and then what else do I get into on this video? I recorded this footage last night, so I don't remember super well. Oh, looks like we just add some like mossy decals to dirty up the ground a little bit to make it look a little more realistic and worn. Nothing too fancy, simple stuff. So enjoy watching me throw down some moss decals. There's no real rhyme or reason to the placement, just whatever looks best. I like to tuck them under things so that it doesn't all look the same, and you don't want to overlap them too much because you will get the weird texture flickering. We're going to jump over to the other side here in a second, copy some of them, and get them placed over there. Easy peasy. Just kind of throwing them all over. And I believe next up we actually work on the exit side of the monorail station. So just having a little look at the creation so far, really happy with how it's turning out. And now we're going to jump to the exit side. For the exit side, I'm going to move some of these lights over to be on the other pillar that holds up the roof. Got to adjust them a bit, and then put a bathroom on the exit side. Makes sense to me to have a bathroom on the entrance and exit side so people can go to the bathroom before they leave and also go to the bathroom once they arrive. Looking at some other buildings to add to the other side, end up just deciding we only need a bathroom. They don't need anything else right when they walk in, because they're going to walk right to Cyber City in a few minutes and get anything they could need. Get those walls set up, copy over the entrance to the bathroom that I designed on the other side. Pretty easy to copy over. Grab the trim pieces, slide them, bada boom, looks good. Get my lights and ventilation unit to match, looks great. Then we're gonna get some of the LED lining set up over there. And then here in a minute, we copy what is on one side of the arched entryway for the train to the other side. Select all the pieces, which they don't highlight when you select them, which is a little finicky. Wish they did, but I'm not going to make a big stink about it. By highlight, I mean whenever you select decals, typically if you select an item or do multi-select, it highlights like the outline of what that item is, so you know you've selected it. But for certain items like the moss decals, it just doesn't show you anything. So you just kind of have to keep an eye on that selection information on the top right to see if you actually get a hold of it, and then hope you didn't grab anything else that you didn't want. Taking a little pause here, probably stepped out to get a beverage, so we'll give it a brief second. Boom, we're back. Next, wanted to add a little depth and structure to this exit portion right here. So we grab the support beams. I was going to copy them over, but I end up doing these awnings first. You have to do them one by one to get them to sit at the correct height, which is a little obnoxious doing them as a group. They just don't quite properly line up. Now we grab our little structural pieces and squeeze them in. They look good. Fills out that area just right. I'm going to have to put something cool on the outside for right when you walk out so that the first view from this exit into Cyber City is cool. Don't know what I'll put there. Maybe a small ride, maybe a big building / shopping complex. Not super sure yet. So here's where I find that little exit sign that I liked. So we throw those exit signs on the actual exits of the building so that they're easily viewable to the guests. Then next up, want to put up like a little welcome sign for Cyber City. So get the colors to match the building and then go in, do the same font. There you go. Boom. You're in Cyber City. Pretty cool. Now we copy over some of the benches and trash cans and planters just to match the other side to what we have on the entrance side. Easy peasy. Get our plants copied over. Easy, easy. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side of this one. Get a door set up. Just like as if it's like a janitor's closet or something like that. You know, I didn't want to go too crazy. Maybe it's like a single office for whoever manages the monorails. So throw a couple windows on it. Just anything to make the wall not look flat and plain. You can make up in your own head what you think it should be. And then throw some benches on the windows, kind of like you would see at an airport. Grab a couple trash cans. Does the snapping thing, so it's a little tricky to get them to stay off the wall. But throw one by the bathroom, one in the middle over there. And then grab the smoke that we can put on the ventilation down there so that it matches the other sides. Easy peasy. Set the smoke to be white so that it looks more like steam. Get these vents for the ground. I really like how they look on the ground. They make a lot of sense to me. Boom, boom. And then next up, I think I just grab a couple picnic tables to fill out the center with, and that's probably going to be the last thing for this video. Yeah, really stoked on how this interior turned out. Once it's completely done, I'll do like a quick walkthrough tour video of it for the monorail. Just got to get the exterior of the monorail station complete as well. And then, yeah, we'll do a full tour. It'll look great. Get these lights lined up. One of the last things I'm going to be doing here. Yeah, once the monorail is completely done, though, I'm going to do one more small coaster in Cyber City between where this monorail station is and where the board slide street ball ride is. And then after that, we'll probably move over to the next portion of a park. I'll do some odds and ends, and I think put some other big decorative buildings in Cyber City in places just to fill out the skyline as you walk around. Yeah, but as you're seeing through this little walkthrough, pretty excited with how this monorail station is turning out. It looks surprisingly realistic. Looked a little funky at first. Wasn't quite up to snuff at the beginning in my head, but working on it these past couple days, I really feel like it has come together. That kiosk does a lot. The new fountains at the entrance do a lot for me. And so yeah, gonna close out, throw some more water jets on the ends of each corner for the fountains, and then call it a day. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. I will see you in the next one.